not to cut you off, but I think that's one of the things that really stands out, for me when I think about you as an artist is how much of the music that you create is, it's real and three-dimensional and depth to it, and it's you speaking about, who you are. You feel you make music and you're real comfortable within your own identity and we're real comfortable within your own skin, and I think that really comes across in the things that you create. Was it always like that for you when you think about the beginning of you creating music and recording music? Do you feel like you always wrote and made music that was representative of your identity or of who you were at the time, or was that something that you sort of grow into and learned how to do, or how was that process for you?
I definitely wrote those songs, but I kind of had to overcome that fear of like, wow, I'm really gonna like put myself out there like that, and at first I was just making songs like I felt at first like I was just rapping. I wasn't making music, if that makes sense. Like I was just saying, like I was just rapping just to rap, and I would make songs and I would express myself in depth, but I would be scared to put it out because I was like, I don't know if people are gonna want to hear this or, So I think it was something I always did, but not something I always embraced. But as I gotten older and more mature and really just better at music, I was like, you know what, like fuck it, like I'm gonna give them the real me, and if I can't make that work, then nothing else is gonna work. What I'm saying? So yeah, I would say that.
Well, is there any artist that you sort of was inspired by that helped you, facilitated you becoming comfortable in that and being comfortable within your own identity? Is it any artist you sort of grew up listening to or began to listen to as you were older and making music, where you was able to sort of take some of get inspired from them and how they were comfortable in their identity with transporting that into the things that you were doing?
I mean, there's a lot of artists. Usually when I look up to artists, it's kind of something along these lines, like what you're talking about, like their backstory, like what they had to do, or this this risk they took, or just that believing in themselves is very admirable in any of the artists that we all love. But I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of artists that, put their heart on their sleeve and, make songs that make you think or make you feel, which I always were like my favorite songs growing up. So I was like, I listen to everybody, from R&B to pop to hip hop to, So I don't know if I could trace it back to any one artist, but, definitely heard it from music or saw them like, you know what, they're being themselves, and you could tell that's real, or the story comes out where it proves something that happened in the song, but yeah, I can't really think of like one main artist or anything like that.
What was some of the first artists that you were introduced to, like when you think about being younger and listening to albums for the first time, becoming a fan of music from the first time? What were some of the artists that like were your introductory into, even if it's not hip-hop music, just into music as a whole?
Well, I definitely live like two different worlds. Like when I was with my father or my dad, he listened to like classic rock, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, like that type of, he grew up in the 80s, so he was on that type of time. But then I spent a lot of my time with my grandmother and my older sisters and their friends, and so she had the iPod, so I was listening to artists like Akon and Mario and T-Pain. Like this is like 2007, so it's like Wayne and Elliot Yamin, like did I say Akon? I love Akon. Like Akon was one of my first ones, and then but obviously I still like the classic rock songs too, though. I get down to some some Def Leppard and shit like that, but yeah, it was just really like I just remember when I was young, or like even Chris Brown, like you gotta think of how long he really been famous. I was like 6 years old, 7 years old, like waiting by the radio for with you to come on the radio. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting there, and then but yeah, there's just so many artists. Like but yeah, pretty much a lot of ones that I just named right there. But yeah.
What was